It's the weekly wrap with your host, broadcasting legend Bruce Wolf, and his trusty sidekick, comedian Tim Slagle. And now, without further ado, Bruce Wolf.
Bruce Wolf, Tim Slagle on the weekly wrap. And this is when I guess what the background is for Tim. I'm going to say that it is Tucker Carlson hooked up to a polygraph machine. Am I right about that, Tim Slagle?
I'm afraid not. It was a different news item this week.
Okay, let's take a look right now. Ah, yes, the lab leak. Okay, well, thank you, Dr. Fauci. No, we'll get to that. We'll get to that on fairly shortly. I did want to mention Tucker Carlson, who apparently just lies all the time. There was even more stuff that came out about him, and that he, and the great thing is how much he hates Donald Trump. I mean, the quotations, "I hate him passionately," read one text sent by Carlson to a colleague. What he's good at is destroying things. He's the undisputed world champion of that. He could easily destroy us if we play it wrong. Well, theoretically, it could destroy Tucker Carlson because this text came out. But
Trump doesn't strike me as someone who has a lot of friends. he kind of seems like he's been a loner most of his life.
He burns the bridges before he even gets to them. Yeah, he's just and he's got an inexhaustible supply of people who will help him out. On another occasion, Carlson said, of the last 4 years, we're all pretending we've got a lot to show for it because admitting what a disaster it's been is too tough to digest. But come on, there isn't really an upside to Trump. I mean, compared to some of the other stuff that he has said, I mean, he's like Dr. Carlson and Mr. Hyde. Here's the thing. I believe there was some upside to Trump. What about Gorsuch, Kavanaugh, and Barrett? What kind of rhino? Carlson is a rhino.
also remember that you're talking about no upside to Trump before Biden is when he said that.
Oh, okay.
It's in a post-Biden world, everyone's attitude has kind of changed.
Okay.
Everyone is willing to accept mean tweets at this point.
Okay, I guess so. Here's a bite. Apparently, in 2003, Tucker Carlson said about Bill O'Reilly, who's, of course, Carlson's predecessor and was wildly successful. I mean, O'Reilly was so successful, he reportedly paid like $30 million to end a sex lawsuit. That's a lot of money to just pay off somebody. You got to be making a lot. So he said O'Reilly's success is built on the perception that he really is who he claims to be. If he ever gets caught out of character, it's over. There's a deep phoniness at the center of his shtick. So I guess, Tucker, we become our parents because he's just, I mean, the opposite things that he says. Behind the scenes, he's talking about how bad Trump is, and on camera, it's a totally different thing. There was Charlie Kirk showed Carlson at some confab, I think in December of 22, not so long ago, that Carlson said, I actually love Donald Trump as a guy. The idea that he's some monster is just absurd. Well, you know what? I always try to reconcile different things. Maybe he loves him as a guy, but he hates him with a passion for everything else he is. Tucker Carlson contains multitudes there. I mean, we all have ambivalent feelings about people. So I'm trying to get Tucker off the hook for that. But I mean, it's just.
Where are all these things coming out? I mean,
it's on Twitter all the time. Okay. All these.
So people are digging up past tweets by Tucker about Trump.
Well, they're past clips, showing him praising Trump, and then of course, at the same time or even later, he's talking about how bad Trump is, and he's just worried about the stock price at Fox. So let's turn a little bit local right now. So Brandon Johnson, who's he again? Oh yeah, he's running for he is running for mayor of the city of Chicago. And is he in favor of defunding the police or not? I think he is. Really, he wants to turn it into kind of like a social workforce. But
yeah, that's such a great idea. Put social workers. So like if your house is broken into after 5 o'clock on Friday, you're going to have to wait till Monday.
Right. Well, yeah, with a good union, they could get it done that way. I think Brandon Johnson wants to use the think method for policing. From the Music Man, Professor Harold Hill didn't really teach the kids how to play the instruments. He just think, and of course, the parents were just loved the way they bleated out to the music at the end of the Music Man. So. If you just put your mind to it, you can be a cop. How is that race going? I know that Vallis has picked up some endorsements. Willie Wilson,
I think.
and Willie Wilson also gave him a free tank of gas. So
Well, that's a campaign donation that could be well in excess of the
right. And he also we got Jesse White. I think is it Alderman Roderick Sawyer? I can't remember. But yeah, he's picking up some black endorsements. Does anybody have a handle? Maybe you do. Chris, do you have a handle on? And there hasn't been any polling yet, has there? Do we know? No,
not that I know.
Okay, I mean, because I've heard some people say, "Oh, well, Vallis is going to win because he got 35%," but that might be his ceiling. I don't think so. I think he'll get more, but and this Johnson is very radical. I mean, he's to the left of Lori Lightfoot. So, but I just find it hard to believe that Chicago will come to its senses and actually elect Paul Vallis.
The assumption is that he'll get all the Lori Lightfoot support, right? Is that
who? Is that Brandon Johnson will get it all?
Yeah, Brandon Johnson will get all the Lori Lightfoot
so that,
support.
Let me see. I've got to do some ciphering here, like Jethro Bodine. I think what did Brandon get? They got like 22 before. I can't remember the exact numbers. Plus 16 would be 38. Then it's pretty close. So what can they have a runoff after the runoff? So
I don't know. I don't know who the Chewy vote's going to go though. The Chewy vote's probably going to be split.
Oh yeah. Well, is that largely a Latino vote? Is that what we're talking about?
The map that we used looked at last week, it almost identical to the congressional district.
Can you believe that Chuy Garcia might have been the mayor of Chicago had it not been for Rahm Emanuel quashing the Laquan McDonald tape? And can you? It's kind of scary. And look where Rahm is right now. I mean, he's in Japan. Why would he go to Japan and be the ambassador?
Oh, he always wanted to be tall.
There we go. Yeah. And
it's actually I wanted Chewy. Speaking of jokes I've used before, I wanted Chewy to be mayor because it would be the first mayor in Chicago that is named after an ice cream flavor.
Right. I was thinking Chewy. No, I'm real slow on the Ben and Jerry references. I can't really think a Ben and Jerry. I used to think that they were a homespun outfit, and I guess they started that way, but now they are just part of that European conglomerate. I think it's called Uranus Corporation or something. Whatever.
That always sounded like a morning show to me, didn't it?
Yeah. So let us move on here to so we'll go talk about the Lab League right now. So Jeff Zucker, I mean, talk about Fox News, censoring and guilty of all kinds of journalistic crimes. Let's go back to our comfort zone, which is CNN, and Jeff Zucker, who, by the way, when he was at NBC, had to okay my 4:30 in the morning show. Huh? Little redundant there. 4:30 in the morning show because it was the first one of its kind, and we were getting rid of some network programming for me to do that. So he had to actually green light that. So thank you, Jeff Zucker, for having done that. But he apparently didn't want CNN to investigate the Lab Leak, the Lab Leak theory. And so, which means he could have been he could have done Dr. Fauci's job for him, because Fauci himself commissioned an anti-leak paper for February of 2020. And it was hastily written. I got this listening to commentary podcast the other day, and he was trying to cover himself because he was subsidizing the gain of function research, which I don't think is necessarily a bad idea in principle. and practice it might be. I mean,
well, no, if you have a Chinese lab working on bioagents, you probably want an American scientist in that lab watching what's going on.
Not a bad idea. Not a bad idea. But he seems like he was trying to cover up the fact that
wait a minute, CNN covering up for Democrats?
And Fauci wanted to cover up. I mean, this is two layers of covering, because nobody wants to trace it back to the Chinese, because that would be racist. And we don't really want to face the fact that we've got a big problem with China. It's better that it came from a bat.
Is there a CNN China?
Interesting.
Because I know that's kind of why Bloomberg's all in the tank.
Yeah,
for China.
I know
that's why Zuckerberg's all in the tank for China. It's, I mean, they want to do business in China. So
I know that when you watch a little bit of CNN China, 30 minutes later you feel like watching it again. So Bruce Wolf, Tim Slagle on the weekly wrap.
A Minnesota court is forcing USA Powerlifting to allow transgender women to compete against biological women. The court says USA Powerlifting was, quote, making a person pretend to be something different, and it violated the Minnesota Human Rights Act with its long-standing policy. USA Powerlifting is now considering an appeal.
Bruce Wolf, Tim Slagle on the weekly wrap. So Tim, I ask this, in all innocence. So you know how we call the guys who can lift like this? We call them he-men. I mean, would it be okay to call these she-men? I mean, or would that be considered derogatory? I ask this in all innocence.
I actually think it's she-ra.
Oh, she-ra.
He-man and she-ra, if I remember correctly.
I see. Well, but I mean, right now, I mean, she-men. Well, all right. I won't take it any further than that. So. Meantime, I mean, do you have any feelings about this?
In my attitude, if you want to do that, if you want to compete as a woman, you gotta go all the way. Okay.
Really?
So you gotta cut more than 25% of your paycheck, if you know what I mean.
Well, you're backwards. I mean, you're probably going to tell me you don't like drag shows for tots. Is that the kind of guy that you are?
I don't. I really don't care. I think if parents want to bring their kids to a drag show, I don't know why they would want to do that, other than the appearance of irritating conservatives.
Yeah,
I think that's all there. I mean,
oh no, it's definitely to bait people like us.
Yeah. So I'm not going to take that bait. Sure. You want to bring your kid to a drag show? Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So I already did the obligatory setup for you for the Rom joke. Can you set me up with Don Lemon right now? And you scratch my back, I'll scratch. So yeah, I hate Don Lemon, as everyone knows. But you know who else I hate is
why do you hate Don Lemon, Bruce?
Oh, because he wouldn't do 2 assignments at Channel 5 when he was there. And when I was there, which took me decades to get there, I did everything, including the traffic. And whoever people don't
that might have been your mistake.
People don't have the TV sets in their cars. What's traffic? So
maybe you should have been turning down those dog shows.
Wait, I'm just seeing this on the screen right now. Is this a news story about Don Lemon, Chris? He feels ganged up on. Okay. Yeah. Well, he should be ganged up on. So, anyway, Don Lemon is one thing, but you know who else I hate is Merrick Garland. I mean, it's personal. And the reason is that he graduated.
Were you guys at Channel 2 together too?
He was at the top of his class at Niles West in like 1970.
Okay.
And I was 81st in my class at Niles East in 1971. There used to be a show on Chicago TV that was on Saturday nights called It's Academic. Ed Grennan was the host. It was a quiz show for high school students, and high school teen quiz show. It's like College Bowl, only only for high school. And Merrick Garland, I believe, was the captain of the Niles West It's Academic team. I auditioned for the Niles East It's Academic team, with my classmates, and I got only one answer correct, or one answer that nobody else got. And I remember the answer. I don't remember the question, but the answer was Tinkerbell. But that was it. That's as close as I came. That was as close as I came to, because I wanted to be on Channel 5 so badly, because they had the show.
So the question was either about a Broadway play or a drag show.
Exactly. Well, I think the question was, what do they call Bruce Wolf in the locker room? But so he gets to be on Channel 5 as a high school student, gets it out of his system, and gets this close to being a Supreme Court justice. Me, I spend the next few decades trying to get to Channel 5, which I finally do after Don Lemon just didn't do any assignments there. So here's I'm glad there's a little Schadenfreude going on with Merrick Garland, because Andy McCarthy in National Review wrote about how Garland was testifying as to, and I think Ted Cruz grilled him on this, why the Justice Department didn't go after all those people who were doxing the Supreme Court justices when Dobbs was about to be decided, and were showing up in Supreme Court justices' homes, which they're not supposed to do, which is against the law, which should be prosecuted. Otherwise, you're going to chill the branch of government. And he ducked it. He basically said, "Oh, that's up to a lower level, functionaries." Sure. No, it's not.
And then he could have done something. He also said, "Well, as far as the churches and pro-life clinics, that those are bombed at night."
Exactly. We're federal employees. We don't work.
We're social workers. We go home at 5.
I get well, that's totally reasonable. I get that. So anyway, it's nice to see Merrick Garland squirm. I mean, he's really not acquitted himself very well. He's looked really, look, I can totally understand him not wanting to prosecute people who were standing around the homes of Gorsuch and Kavanaugh and Barrett, who made the Supreme Court, but you didn't. Thank you, Mitch McConnell, who I hope is getting better after he fell down the stair, or fell down, whatever, at a restaurant. Anyway, what should we turn to right now? Did you take a look at CPAC at all?
I saw a few clips.
Yeah, I tried to avoid it. I remember when I was doing interviews at CPAC, was in Chicago about 10 or 11 years ago.
Down on Radio Row, where you sitting?
We were on Radio Row, and we had Rick Santorum. Dan Proft and I were interviewing Rick Santorum. And have I told this story already?
I have not heard Chris, the Santorum,
because I usually tell the same stories over and over again. But I mean, there's a phalanx of cameras. I mean, all the eyes were on us. And then Rand Paul was on with us as well. And we were filling in there that day for Don and Roma from WLS, and Rand said, "I was kind of hoping Don and Roma were going to be here," and I turned to him and I said, "I was kind of hoping Ron Paul would be here today." Oh yeah. Actually, I think I only thought that because I didn't want to fight Rand Paul. But anyways, it was a big deal, and that's when it was kind of mainstream conservatism. Now, I don't think there was that great. I think he had more people at the Capitol, quote unquote, riot than were at CPAC over the weekend. And Trump got in their straw poll only 62% of the vote, which, I mean, seems like it's not really that much. I'm wondering, as you read the tea leaves right here, and maybe the voting machines were rigged against him at CPAC as well. I don't know.
It was Trump came in first, and then I think DeSantis came in second.
Yeah, with about 20 something. Yeah,
and number third was Perry Johnson. Is that right?
Is that right? Yeah. Oh, okay.
I'm not
So
sure. I'm not sure I have the last name there. I'm just.
you're always safe with the name Johnson.
With Johnson, sure.
Yeah, you're always safe with that one. Is this indicative of anything, Tim Slagle? Who's sitting there with a Wuhan Institute picture behind him? Yeah, a lot of credibility.
Only getting 62%. I think I think a lot of people are getting Trump fatigue.
Yeah,
but it's it's just everything's just getting started. I'm sure there's a few people at CPAC that would have liked to see Mike Pence or Ron DeSantis, and we're a little miffed that they didn't show up for because they don't want to, because there's distance. They want distance between themselves and Trump.
No, I get that. But Trump unveiled this plan, and I didn't really. I mean, it's like cities of the future that he's going to build with flying cars and jetpacks or something. I mean, he could have just shown a Jetsons cartoon for me. But which reminds me, Peter Thiel, or is it Thiel or Thiel? I forgot how you pronounce his name, but he's always said, we think that we've had these wonderful technological advances in the last 40, 50 years. I mean, especially with the iPhone and all that. But really, when we were growing up in the 60s, we thought we'd be flying cars by the year 2000.
Oh, man, yeah. We were supposed to be able to book Pan Am flights to the moon.
And where is Pan Am today?
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's next to Alice on the moon.
Yeah, right. So what kind of cities are we talking about here? That Donald Trump was talking. I mean, that's going to be the era when we have driverless trucks, and all those guys are out of work, and so they're not even going to be able to live in the cities. So
I can't see driverless trucks going through the city. I can't. Yeah, I can't. Boy, they can't even keep the trains on the track going through going through cities. I can't seeing cities ever allowing driverless gravel trucks.
It's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. Can you imagine being next to I don't even know, because I don't really know a lot about trucks, but was it an 18-wheeler? Can you imagine one, and you're looking in the cab and there's nothing in there? Or at least they can have like a hologram in the cab, so it makes it look like.
There was a made-for-TV movie like that called Duel. Do you remember that one? It was it was Steven Spielberg's. It was like his first big movie. It was an ABC movie of the week, and the story was, I think it was Spielberg. And it was just the story was a guy that just driving through the desert, and all of a sudden there's a truck coming up behind him, and then eventually he realizes this truck is trying to kill him. So it's
wow.
That's what it reminds me of. So
a
movie that only I watched.
It's all what we get used to. I think we'll get, but it's just I just feel bad for the people who are actually going to have nothing to do, because but pretty soon attorneys are not going to have anything to do too. AI is going to be coming up with, you think artificial intelligence couldn't have written the Dominion motion for summary judgment? I think it could have. So
my mom was thinking about a trust, and I actually asked Chat GPT to draw up a trust. And boy, it did a pretty darn good job.
There you go. You go.
Sure, it needs a little tweaks, a couple of tweaks here and there, but it probably saved her in 10 seconds. Probably saved her like $1,000.
Yeah. Okay, you just gave me a shiver, because I do the attorney thing. I
asked them to write a joke. I asked the Chat GPT to write me a routine. And
did they?
Yeah.
Did they come up with a Rahm Emanuel? If you try it next time. Mention Rahm Emanuel and becoming the ambassador to Japan. See if they come up with the punchline. He just wanted to be a tall guy. See if that happens.
I would read some of the jokes. All I can remember is, why do they put locks on payphones?
And
that's it.
It's good. It's funny. Bruce Wolf, Tim Slagle on the Weekly Wrap.
nervous about filming it. But as you can see from the title, today's video is about my experience as being Black and being an equestrian and racism in the equestrian community and all of those touchy topics that have definitely been coming to light more with the death of Breonna Taylor and the shootings and George Floyd and just the state that the world is in. And I just really have felt really pulled to get this off my chest, get this video out there, and really explain how, you know, there is racism in the equestrian community.
Bruce Wolf, Tim Slagle on the weekly wrap. I don't want to minimize the problems that minority equestrians are facing, but I think of Afghan women who can't go to school, Iranian women being burnt at the stake or whatever. Somebody came up.
How about changing your hairstyle?
Well, that's asking for a little much, but one guy came up with the solution that they should just shoot the horses. So that way we're equalized.
It's I don't know why boy, I don't know how if I could say this and it's going to be politically incorrect, but when you go to a dog show, it's the dogs have to be groomed a certain way. And horse shows are like human dog shows. I've always thought.
Yeah,
I've always felt it's not like
just as long as you say that the humans don't have to be groomed in any way. I think you're on safe ground, but in any event, let's move on to apparently Zip-itty-do-dah, the song, has been banned by Disney.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is that I don't think the song itself is racist, but in Song of the South, was that the cartoon?
Yeah, it was a
black guy who sang it.
Right.
But the song itself isn't racist.
But if you sing it as was intended, it does have a minstrel show aspect.
I see. But all right, because
as does Jingle Bells, but nobody's going to get rid of that one.
Well, maybe we will. So I remember the Chicago Bar Association puts on a show every year called the Christmas Spirits Show. I don't know if they still do it, but it was their big talent show. I mean, these are lawyers, all in good liberal standing and everything. And I remember going to that show in the late 80s. Harold Washington was early 80s. Harold Washington was the mayor, and they did a parody of Zip-itty-do-dah about Harold Washington. Now, why didn't they just bring Al Jolson on while they were at it? So it's just
Song
amazing.
of the South Side.
Yeah. All right, hi-oh. We got a winner here. So yeah, you got to be really careful nowadays. I was wondering, would Billy Crystal be allowed to do his Fernando impersonation now, which he popularized on Saturday Night Live? You look marvelous. It's better to look good than feel good. I wonder if are you allowed to imitate people of another ethnic
Well,
group?
I think that was Fernando was Italian, right?
I think
Italians are okay. It's Mexicans that you can't. So you
Right,
don't know with
right.
Fernando. It could be either. But
with Italians, I mean, if you don't stereotype them as mafioso, you're in trouble. So no, I get that. I totally get that. Yes, speaking of virtue signaling, so I'm watching this TV show on Apple TV called Shrinking. It's with Jason Segel and Harrison Ford, and it's about a psychiatrist who's got a lot of personal problems, and he's got a new method of treating patients, and which is kind of ridiculous. And I've only 2 episodes into it, and it's really funny. But I got to tell you, it's like every page on the script, they've got to virtue signal at some point. So at one point, Jason Segel says, hey, a white man in Pasadena can park his car on the curb and the cops will just return it to his home. They mentioned that Taco Tuesday is vaguely racist. There's other things too. It's just, as a matter of fact, there's so much virtue signaling. I was wondering that they're just trying to parody and lampoon all virtue signaling itself, because there's just so much of it. Do you remember the movie Revolutionary Road? It was with Kate Winslet and
I do not.
Kate Winslet and Leonardo DiCaprio, and it's about suburban life in the 50s. And everybody, when they saw the movie, thought, oh yeah, that horrible staid suburban life in the 50s. The guy who actually wrote the novel was extolling the virtues of that, and basically was making fun of people who make fun of dull suburban life, because what's wrong with some good suburban values? So a lot of times
it was a
people
layer
don't
of
get it.
satire over a layer of satire.
Something like that. I always say it's a truism: trust the tale, not the teller. What do you get out of it? And
are you familiar with Poe's law?
What is Poe's law?
Poe's law states that any satire of an extremist position is indistinguishable from fact.
That is pretty good. That's pretty good. So let us move on right now. So the NatCons apparently want free birth. Free birth, as somebody said. I mean, I thought
the last surviving member of Leonard Skinner just passed away. By the way,
yeah,
I
true.
think we should mention that if you're
going
to
should
play free birth.
Yeah, I thought conservatives used to stand for laissez-faire, get off my back. Now we're going to have the government subsidizing everyone's birth, and that's a conservative position, supposedly.
Huh.
What party are we going to switch to, Tim? I mean, we got nowhere to go anymore, right? If that's the Republican Party, where did you see that? This is a most of these news articles I'm familiar with. I guess that I'm just making them up in my head.
No. I just wondered where this was and who. And who these NatCons are that say they want this. My guess is that it's that they say, well, a lot of people can't afford to have a baby. It costs so much.
Oh no, I totally understand.
And
we
could have more life if we actually
right. And there are countries which have policies encouraging
according to Chris, it has nothing to do with the expense. It just means no doctor.
Are you sure that's what it was? I thought it was.
It's a lot of creative ways to give birth now. It's they have pools. Do you know about this?
No. I thought we were going back. Look, I was at the height of. We had children at the height of the Lamaze craze.
Uh-huh.
I took 2 remedial Lamaze classes. Okay, remedial ones. I mean, it wasn't enough, transition breathing. Yeah, just imitate the chorus in Every Breath You Take. So maybe I don't even understand that story. No, I thought it is to encourage more people, because I think the Prime Minister of Japan or somebody said that Japan as a nation may disappear because they're not replenishing their supply, and they don't like immigrants. So, yeah. All right.
It's they were kind of overcrowded anyway. So,
well, they're not. They're not.
It's good that they were able. It's good they were able to figure out a way to do that without the one-child policy.
Yeah. Well, I mean, China's screwed because of that. They're absolutely screwed.
It's gotten a lot of North Korean women out of the country, though.
Oh,
that's North Korea's biggest export now to China is single women.
Oh. Interesting.
I'll bet you didn't know that.
I didn't know that you were an expert on that. I didn't know that. Why don't you just give me your curriculum vitae, and I could feed you lines about that. That's tremendous. I had no idea about that. What are you watching, if anything, on Netflix or
right now? I just finished the Kaminsky Method.
Oh yeah, was it good? Did you like it?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, we watched it.
There was one. It reminded me of something you were talking about earlier, where they actually had a Morgan Freeman as a non-binary Quincy was a TV show that said that one of the actresses got a part on, and it was really funny because here's Morgan Freeman saying, the nurse is saying, so she was murdered? No, they was murdered. Well, where's the other one? No.
Was that in the Kaminsky method?
Yeah, it was in the Kaminsky method.
Well,
Yeah.
it's just I love this. I'm getting to the age where we don't remember what we saw, so we could see it over again. There's a show on Apple TV, Slow Horses. We thought we'd watched like a couple of the episodes already, so we started it over. No, it turned out we had watched the entire first season, but we didn't remember that. We've watched Harlan Coben mysteries twice, and it suddenly dawns on us that we haven't had already.
All you need is a Blu-ray player and a handful of discs, and you're set for the.
No, I mean, and just give me one. No, just have me see the same thing over and over again, because I'll never remember it. So yeah, it's a little disconcerting. Well, and it's not just old age. It's just that there's so much out there, and you watch so much that it all absolutely blurs together. But yeah, we watched the Fauda, which is about Israeli combat operations, or like their version of the CIA, making sure that they're immune to terrorism or fight it as much as possible. And I just like it because it shows Jews fighting instead of being marched in somewhere. All right, Tim's got to go.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
I think there's a Beverly Hillbillies.
Beverly Hillbillies marathon on Me TV.
Yeah.
So.
The Pot Passer episode is the best. So Tim, we'll see you next week. I'll be back just by myself with the Tucker Carlson filibuster. Bruce Wolf, Tim Slagle on the weekly wrap. Bruce Wolf on the weekly wrap. Sans Tim, but we got our trusty producer, Mr. Snerdley. You know, when I was on WLS, we used to did the show with Dan Proft. I used to refer to the producers as Snerdley. Because there were cutbacks, all across the AM dial, and I said we had to share him with Rush Limbaugh. I like to deal in the theater of the absurd, but we've got Chris, our producer, in, and of course, our first segment, Tucker Carlson did have a report. So, Kevin McCarthy gave Tucker Carlson the January 6th committee, 40,000 hours of tape, which, he didn't really need to do that because probably Tucker had it planned ahead of time exactly what he was going to put on and make it look like, it was just, people who would just absolutely revered the Capitol. And there were a couple of hooligans there, but it wasn't an insurrection. Well, how about, was it a riot, Tucker? A regular riot? But here's the thing. We don't really know whether Tucker even believes what he said the other night with regard to the January 6th committee, because he may just be worried about the stock price of Fox, as we found out in the Dominion lawsuit and the motion for summary judgment when Tucker, what did he do? I don't know if it was a text message. I think it was texting back and forth with his comrades at Fox News. Said that he was worried about the stock price, and that's why they were placating or pandering to the Fox audience.
Bruce, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
As a lawyer, this is a lawyer question.
Yeah, absolutely.
Does it have to be a company phone when the lawsuit happens? Doesn't it have to be a company issued phone for them to get those, or this is like his personal texts are available?
I don't know whether this was a personal text or not, and I don't know that's it depends how they frame the lawsuit. I think, in discovery, you're entitled to find out. I mean, what's the whole point of a libel action? The whole point is to find out if they knew that what they were saying was false. So I would think they'd be entitled to, any and all texts, that were relevant to that. And I don't think it's necessarily it matters whether it's a company issued phone or personal text. It's a good question.
I don't recall Tucker being cited. I remember Maria and Lou Dobbs were personally cited in the lawsuit. I don't remember Tucker being cited.
Yeah, I don't think that's dispositive of the issue. I like when I throw terms around like that. The reason Lou Dobbs, I would think, was cited was because I think there were like 21 mentions of Dominion, 21 times. And I think 12 of them were by Lou Dobbs. So, because he was totally in the tank for Trump and the conspiracy theory. So anyway, I was kind of hoping Tim would be here because I thought I liked Tim's argument in favor of what happened on January 6th. It was basically, well, who cares about the Capitol? And I mean, that's hard to argue, but everybody else seems to work from the premise that the Capitol is kind of a sacred place and that you shouldn't be involved in a riot around there. I mean, Tucker basically brushed over, and he didn't even mention these statistics, that there were about 1,000 people who were arrested. 106 were charged with using a deadly weapon. They assaulted 140 police officers, some so badly they'd never returned to work, according to Fox's own Chad Pegram when he did a story about this. Among some of the injuries for the cops were concussions and broken ribs, shattered spinal discs, and stab wounds. So, I mean, if it looks like a riot and acts like a riot and has statistics like a riot, it's probably a riot. But that's Tucker. I mean, that's what he does. I saw the morning, the Dispatch, Jonah Goldberg's publication, actually went so far as to call Tucker an a-hole, which, I mean, that's language that I wouldn't expect from the Morning Dispatch. Now, even Andy McCarthy, who I have to disclose is a friend of mine, and he wrote about it for National Review, but he couched it by saying, "Look, I do work for Fox. I've known Tucker for a long time, and I love him personally, but and then he went on to eviscerate everything that Tucker said. So it's and then I know a lot of people are in the tank for Tucker. I think that WIND AM 560, the hosts of those shows, if I'm not mistaken, are totally in the tank on this. Kind of glad I didn't get the job 8 years ago to host the mornings, because I'd probably be out of there on the substance of my beliefs by now.
Well, I watched in detail since I knew this was a topic we had. So I watched the last 2 episodes of Tucker in detail. Yeah. And I heard rumors that Fox was throttling him when it came to showing certain footage. And then last night was all repeat footage. So I think there may be someone putting the brakes on over there. It was that they went and redid the whole shaman thing again and showed him again, which, if you have 40,000 hours worth of footage, why are you already re-showing the shaman?
Right. Well, what are you trying to say there? What is Fox trying to do? What was Tucker trying to show?
So after day one, Schumer came out, McConnell came out, and kind of came down heavy, and apparently there were calls to pull Tucker off the air. I don't know what. Are they not letting him show certain things? Why are you, if you have 40,000 hours and it's supposed to be groundbreaking, that you're already on day 3 re-showing stuff from day 1?
Yeah, no, I understand that. I'm still trying to understand, is Tucker trying to show even more that it was just people getting a tour of the Capitol? Is that what he was trying to show? And then you have some Fox News people going against him. I'm just not sure where you're going with it. I'm sorry.
Well, I'm curious if there's stories that they're not letting him tell. I mean, he was pretty bombastic on day 1. They showed Nick walking around afterwards saying, "Look, he was perfectly fine," and that was obviously part of Schumer's speech. And then the whole shaman thing. He tried to make a case for the shaman should be free. Those were the 2 things he focused on. And he went back to the shaman yesterday. I thought there was just going to be all this footage of everybody that was accused, showing them that they didn't do much of anything wrong.
Well, here's the thing. I mean, basically, he shot his wad. Look, I mean, it's the old argument. the George Floyd riots were mostly peaceful, and they were. I mean, it's like when you say that Planned Parenthood, oh, look, we offer all kinds of things, breast exams, and all kinds of advice to young people or old people, whatever, regarding Planned Parenthood. But when it comes down to it, Planned Parenthood is an abortion mill. I mean, so it's just. It's ludicrous, but I mean, it is interesting. I wonder, what else. I mean, who knows what goes on at Fox right now? I mean, right now they're probably thinking about how big a check to write to Dominion. And speaking of Fox, so Brett Bair, I mean, that's the one guy that he's the more or less objective news guy. There was a New York Times story last week that says there was a text message from Brett Bair saying, on the night of the election, let's put Arizona in the Trump column. Well, first of all, it was never in Trump's column. I mean, you can make an argument that it never should have been called for Biden, but it was never in Trump's column. This absolutely begs for an explanation from Brett Bair. I don't think he's brought it, but I mean, he's when Brett Bair gets compromised by this, what do you want? It's just ridiculous. And that's another reason I would never want to be like a host on WIND anymore. I don't know if they used to talk to Brett Bair every Friday. I did some substitute hosting there where we would talk to him. A lot of times he'd blow us off, not because he's a bad guy. He had a busy schedule, but it made us look really small. Like, oh, wow, we get to talk to Brett Bair. I mean, I like the guy. I mean, I love it, especially like talking about golf to him, but about who the freak is Brett Bair. And now the only thing I would want to ask Brett Bair if I were on with him on a morning show in Chicago would be, what the hell was going on with you wanting to put it in Trump's column? Do you have an explanation? And I urge anybody who actually listens to that station, go ahead, see, and if Brett Bair is on, see if they ask him about that. But I don't even know if he's even still on that station on a weekly basis. So in any event, it didn't look really good. And here's the thing: if Trump is gets a Republican nomination, and he goes, he's in a debate, and he is baited by saying, "Well, January 6th, was it a riot?" And if he tries to soft pedal that thing, he's going to lose a lot, whatever independent support he could possibly have. I mean, he's this close to. I voted for him twice, and he's this close to not getting my vote for the third time. And once you've lost Bruce Wolf, like once you've lost Walter Cronkite, you've lost the nation with regard to Vietnam. Once you've lost me, I mean, it'll be a landslide for Joe Biden. So they got to be real careful that way. Bruce Wolf, solo on the Weekly Wrap.